world, away from any regional interference, especially from the neighboring brethren country, to restore life back to Libya and to return smiles on the faces of its children.
Captured the strategic town of Bani Walid in the country's northwest from the militias of warlord Khalifa Haftar. The latest development comes a day after the UN-recognized government seized the city of Tarhuna, Haftar's last stronghold in northwestern Libya, which was used as the main launchpad against the capital, Tripoli. Friday's defeat inflicts serious blows to Haftar's 14-month offensive to capture Tripoli. Haftar's militias fled the town before the government forces approached the northern borders of the town. The government declared that the next main step is to recapture the city of Sirte in central Libya. In March, the Libyan government launched Operation Peace Storm to counter attacks on the capital and recently regained strategic locations, including the Al-Watiya airbase in the country's west. Turkey's military support to the Libyan UN-recognized government seems to have turned the tide against Haftar's militias in recent months. Hundreds of people have been killed, and another 200,000 driven from their homes since warlord Haftar launched his assault over the capital last April.
The Egyptian regime's intervention in Libyan affairs has roots spanning 4 decades. During Gaddafi's rule, Egypt supported the revolution against Gaddafi under the pretext of supporting legitimacy and aspirations of the Libyan people. And now the Egyptian regime is supporting General Haftar to occupy the capital Tripoli and to undermine the internationally recognised government. I'll leave you with this special A News perspective, followed by updates in economy and sports. I'll be back on the hour with more world news.
Interference in Libya is not a new thing, and to understand the relationship between the two countries, let's go back to the 70s. Arab unity, what a great idea, which was a dream that inspired Arab people. This dream was reinforced by the late Egyptian President Jamal Abdel Nasser, the pioneer of Arab nationalism. Libya, which was led by Muammar al-Gaddafi, began a determined foreign policy of promoting Arab unity. Gaddafi consulted Egyptian and Syrian leaders on taking steps towards that goal. When Egyptian President Jamal Abdel Nasser died in September 1970, his successor Anwar Sadat took his place in the discussions. But in October 1973, Egypt and Syria, without consulting Libya, launched a coordinated attack on Israel, initiating the October War. Sadat agreed to open negotiations with Israel, seeking the return of the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt in exchange for a guarantee to not engage in further attacks on Israel. That really angered Gaddafi, who saw what he said was the war's limited objectives and the ceasefire, accusing Sadat of cowardice, undermining the Arab United stance against Israel, and betraying the Arab cause.
His land, how to publish his state on his land, how to liberate their country.
Thereafter, Egyptian-Libyan relations were marked by frequent accusations against each country's leaders and further discussions regarding the pursuit of Arab unity was abandoned. The Egyptian president started to support subversion in Libya, including the possible extensions of encouragement to plots to assassinate Gaddafi himself and backing anti-Libyan groups in neighboring Chad. But the escalation raged and took a different shape. First, the Egyptian state media say that a Libyan conspiracy is going to topple the Egyptian government. President Saddam began to consider an invasion of Libya to dispose its Soviet-aligned government, and Egypt's Vice President Mubarak had discussed such plans with the US ambassador.
No, it is exaggerated. In the first place, there are no big forces or so, you know. There has been infiltration through the borders. We can, quite a normal force. From the Libyan side, there is no, forces at all. I think the whole thing is exaggerated, especially by Gaddafi, to tell his people that he is a saint or a martyr or something like that, and he tries to mobilize his people because they don't like him. And they have lots against him. He is trying to mobilize them under the pretext that I'm mobilizing on the borders, and I am aiming to attack Libya or so. He is very naive because Egypt will not do what he has already done in Sudan, because we have condemned him for what he has done in Sudan. So Egypt will not do this.
Egypt then began to amass large military forces on its borders with Libya. Changing the regime in Libya would have served the interests of Egypt, Israel, and the Western Bloc, as the oil-rich country not only sought to undermine the Egyptian-Israeli peace process, but was also a faithful Soviet ally, which had undertaken extensive efforts to undermine Western influence in the Middle East and Africa. July 21st, 1977, the first day of a war between Egypt and Libya, which lasted for 4 days. Egypt rapidly planned for escalation and the full invasion of Libya to install a friendly government, likely one which would grant Egypt better access to the Libyan oil reserves. Both Egyptian and Libyan forces primarily used Soviet arms, but Egyptian forces and their firepower were several times greater. Egypt's Air Force, meanwhile, targeted Libyan population centers and specifically the sites where Soviet military advisors were stationed, killing several. Egyptian forces, nevertheless, suffered hundreds of casualties within days and risked heavier losses should they continue to push further into Libyan territory. Egypt came under pressure from other Arab states not to launch a full-scale invasion, and with the help of Algerian President Houari Boumediene, who played a critical mediating role, both Egypt and Libya ended hostilities on July 24th. Egypt returned all occupied territory to Libya, and all prisoners of war were exchanged soon afterwards. While the Libyan-Egyptian war had a few lasting consequences, it represented the conflict between Egypt's new foreign policy, which had shifted away from pan-Arabism and towards the close partnership with the Western Bloc, and the Nasserim and Pan-Arabism of Libya. The clash between the two countries therefore symbolized the extent of the foreign policy shift that Egypt was undertaking under Sadat and the resulting breaking of ranks within the Arab nationalist bloc.
What was your personal reaction to the news of President Sadat's assassination?
He was not assassinated, he was executed. Everyone throughout the Arab world was happy about this.
But for some years you were quite friendly with Sadat. You had good relations, you got to know the man well.
لا أنا اليوم جاوبت على السؤال الأول ليس من ناحية عاطفية من ناحية شخصية، أنا تكلمت من ناحية سياسية.
Well, I didn't answer your first question in a personal capacity. I answered it politically.
Did you have any personal reaction?
طبعا يعني من ناحية عاطفية وكشخص لا يمكن أن أكون مسرور لمقتل.
Of course, as an individual, as a human being, I cannot possibly be pleased at the killing, the death of somebody I knew.
ولكن كنت مرتاح جدا من ناحية.
But from a political point of view, I was quite happy.
February 2011. A wave of revolutionary uprising is sweeping the Middle East in what is being called the Arab Spring, and Libya is not far away from this revolution. Egypt is again involved in the scene. Here in Cairo, hundreds of people gathered in front of the Libyan embassy to demonstrate against Libyan leader Muammar al-Gaddafi. The protesters in Cairo waved banners saying, "Down with the killer, down with Gaddafi," and "Wake up, Gaddafi, today is your last day." In August, rebel forces launched an offensive on the government-held coast of Libya, backed by a wide-reaching NATO bombing campaign. Muammar al-Gaddafi evaded capture until 20th of October 2011, when he was captured and killed in Sirte.
In it, Gaddafi appears wounded as he's led away after being caught following NATO's airstrike. The National Transitional Council says he was caught in a gunfight between his supporters and government fighters and died from a bullet to the head. But one source from the ruling body has been quoted as saying he was killed by his captors. There are other claims that Gaddafi, already injured in the NATO strike, was shot by one of his own guards. Another says he bled to death in an ambulance.
Despite the complexities of the situation in Libya after the revolution, hope is resurrected. In a ceremony on the 8th of August, the National Transitional Council formally transferred power to the General National Congress, the GNC.
السلطات الدستورية في قيادة البلاد إلى المؤتمر الوطني العام، ويعتبر منذ هذه اللحظة التاريخية هو الممثل الشرعي الوحيد للشعب الليبي.
But the hope which appeared on the horizon was quickly shattered when this man appeared out of nowhere, the American citizen, renegade military commander Khalifa Belqasim Haftar, who in February 2014 appeared in a televised announcement to declare a military coup on the GNC, urging Libyans to revolt against the General National Congress.
ليس هذا التحرك انقلابا عسكريا، ليس هذا التحرك انقلابا عسكريا بالمفهوم التقليدي. يعتبر المؤتمر الوطني العام والحكومة المؤقتة المنبثقة عنه في حكم المتوقفين عن أداء أي مهام أو ممارسة أي اختصاصات، ويعد الإعلان الدستوري المؤقت الصادر عن المجلس الوطني الانتقالي مجمدا.
The legitimate government officials quickly responded to Haftar's video, saying that Haftar's statement was against the law and the state's forces.
إن المؤتمر الوطني العام يستنكر وبشدة ويرفض رفضا قاطعا كل هذه المحاولات، ويعدها انقلابا على مؤسسات الدولة الشرعية وخروجا على خيارات الشعب الليبي. وقد أصدر المؤتمر تعليماته لرئاسة الأركان لاتخاذ الإجراءات اللازمة حيال هذه المجموعة.
صدر اللواء متقاعد خليفة حفتر بيانا يدعي فيه بأن القيادة العامة للجيش الليبي وضعت خطط الطريق وسيطر على المؤتمر وسيطر على الحكومة وجمد الإعلان الدستوري، وهذا شيء مخالف للقوانين المعمول بها. إن القوات المسلحة الليبية لا علاقة لها بحراك السياسي، وإن الجيش يرعى بنفسه عن هذه التحركات. قمنا ببيان ينفي سيطرته على مرافق الدولة، وإن الجيش الليبي والوحدات الثوار المنضوية تحت سيطرته مسيطرة سيطرة تامة على جميع مرافق الدولة في ربوع ليبيا. صدرت أوامر عليا بالقبض عليه المدعي العام العسكري والتحري والقبض عليه وتقديمه للعدالة. يعلمون يستغلون هذا الحراك السياسي للوصول إلى السلطة بطريقة غير شرعية، وإن رئاسة الأركان العامة وجميع وحداتها ووحدات الثوار سوف تصدى بقوة وحزم لأي قوة عسكرية تحاول إسقاط المؤتمر أو الحكومة بقوة السلاح.
Clashes erupted in Libya to become a form of a civil war between Haftar supporters and the supporters of legitimacy. Chaos returned to the country once again. Here, the Egyptian regime appears as the guardian of the Arab countries. This time, the Egyptian foreign minister calls for non-interference in the Libyan affairs and to respect the unity of the Libyan soil. He confirmed that on two different occasions.
تمتلك هذه المبادرة من عدد من المبادئ الحاكمة، أهمها احترام وحدة وسيادة ليبيا ورفض أي تدخل في شؤونها الداخلية.
مصر ليست متورطة في أي عمل عسكري أو لها أي تواجد عسكري على الأراضي الليبية. نحن نحترم الإرادة الشعبية الليبية ممثلة في المجلس النواب وما يتخذه من قرارات.
Haftar declared Operation Dignity on 24th of November 2014, and the following day, mysterious warplanes backed Haftar forces attacking Maitiga International Airport in Tripoli, temporarily shutting down the airport but also damaging nearby houses. But who held the rogue general in these attacks? Who conducted these airstrikes on the international airport of Tripoli? Even the United States didn't know who helped Haftar in these airstrikes.
في عناصر القاعدة بتهدد بأنها هتشن هجوم على مصر من الغرب من ليبيا من شرق ليبيا، وفي الحالة دي هيكون في رد فعل إن الجيش المصري يضرب.
طبعا الضرب.
يعني حضرتك مع الضربة؟
أنا مع الضربة حتى داخل ليبيا. ما في.
Well, the answer came from the New York Times. Egypt and the United Arab Emirates have secretly launched airstrikes in favor of Haftar to control Tripoli. The United States officials were caught by surprise, affirming any outside interference exacerbates current divisions and undermines Libya's democratic transition.
Go ahead on this question. We can go back and forth. Go ahead, say.
On the same issue, Egypt just denied that they did any or they bombed Libya. Can you at least confirm that there was bombing and that bombing may have been done by these forces?
I just don't have any information to offer you.
If these strikes were carried out, in fact, by Egypt and UAE, would Washington be disappointed that they had taken this route?
I think, Raza, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you. Do we have more on this specific?
No, but it's a legitimate question, Jen, because the question of whether a government which has had its issues and being stood up in recent times is suddenly now dealing with outside military strikes, whether in support of its efforts to stay constituted or not, certainly that does raise security concerns for this government.
Well, Roz, I think we've consistently said, and I just repeated it, that Libya's challenges are political and violence will not resolve them. Our focus is on the political process there.
In light of this internal fighting and external support from the Egyptian regime and its allies to overthrow legitimacy by supporting Haftar, the country has entered a state of unprecedented security turmoil until the most feared scenarios found a foothold in Libya, and the country became a safe haven for the most intimidating terrorist group, Daesh.
The terrorist group now has an operational foothold in Libya, U.S. intelligence officials telling CNN. ISIS and its regional allies are increasingly using Libya for safe haven, logistics, and joint training where they can possibly plot attacks.
However, the presence of Daesh in Libya culminated with the bloodiest scenario on the 12th of February 2015.
The video that has shocked the world and prompted Egypt to act. The men are being led along a beach in Libya to their deaths.
A black, sad day in Egypt, full of tears for the 21 Egyptian Coptic Christians who were killed in this hideous way.
العالم كفر ولا بد من ردعهم ولازم السيسي يديهم زلزال مدمر يعلمهم ازاي يراعوا حقوق الانسان المصري.
This destructive earthquake was translated by the Egyptian regime as a context to intervene in Libya, this time publicly.
انطلاقا من دور القوات المسلحة الرئيسي في تأمين وحماية الدولة المصرية والحفاظ على الأمن القومي المصري وبتكليفات من الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية القائد الأعلى للقوات المسلحة، نفذت القوات الجوية عددا من الضربات المركزة نهارا وليلا استهدفت عددا من تجمعات العناصر الإرهابية داخل الأراضي الليبية.
This video shows Egyptian fighter jets bombing residential neighborhoods in the city of Derna. The destruction caused by the Egyptian airstrikes killed 7 civilians and described by eyewitness testimonies gathered by Amnesty International as a string of horrific acts, some of which amount to war crimes. Libya, with all its officials, both in the General National Congress and the Libyan National Salvation Government, condemned the Egyptian airstrikes of the Libyan territories in the strongest words.
ندين بكل شدة العدوان المصري صباح اليوم على مدينة درنا ونعتبره اعتداء على السيادة الليبية.
إن هذا العدوان الغادر والإرهاب الذي قاده السلاح الجوي المصري يمثل انتهاكا صارخا للسيادة الليبية وخرقا مفضوحا للقانون الدولي وميثاق الأمم المتحدة، حيث تم تنفيذه عقب بث شريط مرئي زعم أنه تم تسجيله داخل ولاية طرابلس كما يزعم الشريط، ويوضح إعدام 21 مصري قبطي تم اختطافهم دون أي دليل مؤكد، في محاولة بائسة من السلطات المصرية لتصدير الأزمة الحقيقية التي تعيشها.
What? Let's rewind this again. Did he just say was allegedly filmed?
حيث تم تنفيذه عقب بث شريط مرئي زعم أنه تم تسجيله داخل ولاية طرابلس كما يزعم الشريط.
Yes, probably it could be a fake video, since that's what experts from American media have said.
Welcome back to Fox News. Take a look at this photo on your screen. Brand new details about, these are, compilation photos from that horrifying video believed to show the beheading of those 21 Egyptian Christians. Well, it may be fake. Experts analyzing this video now telling Fox News they noticed several telltale signs.
Yeah, take a close look at it. In this shot, the black-clad killers all appear to be well over 7 feet tall. This means the video was most likely shot on a green screen, similar to what weather people use with their weather maps and edited later.
Experts say the proportions are totally off for this masked speaker, meaning he was filmed indoors and the ocean shot added later.
We all agree that the souls of innocent Egyptians were lost, but suspicion remains at the scene of the crime, as some Libyan and regional parties have an interest in manipulating the place of Daesh's crime for security considerations, seeking to shuffle cards in the exhausted country.
يعني كان أولى بينا احنا إن احنا نتدخل تدخل مباشر في ليبيا ولدينا القدرة، لكن احنا ما عملناش كده. احترمنا ظروف ليبيا وقلنا إن احنا نحافظ على العلاقة والأخوة اللي بيننا وبين الشعب الليبي.
The Egyptian regime's intervention in Libyan affairs has roots spanning for decades. During Gaddafi's rule, Egypt supported the revolution against Gaddafi under the pretext of supporting legitimacy and aspirations of the Libyan people. And now the Egyptian regime is supporting General Haftar to occupy the capital Tripoli and to undermine the internationally recognized government, a support interspersed with a lot of Libyan bloodshed.
واضح طبعا الدول اللي بتتدخل والتدخل ده أخر إيجاد حل سياسي للأزمة الليبية على الأقل 3-4 سنين اللي فاتوا.
People need is to build their country in peace, as any country in the world, away from any regional interference, especially from the neighboring brethren country, to restore life back to Libya and to return smiles on the faces of its children.